Hello, my name is Randy Henry. I am the Boating Safety Program Manager for the Oregon State Marine Board. We want to take a little bit of time here at the end of 2020 to talk about the year in review. It was a challenging year in so many ways for so many people, and recreational boating was certainly no exception. There was quite a surge in boating back in the early part of the year when the pandemic first started. And we saw a lot of people who were looking for creative ways to social distance. They didn't have other activities, so they grabbed their kayak, their paddleboard, and they went out and bought one, and they headed out to the river. And as people were enjoying this form of recreation, there were just a lot of people who didn't have the basic skills. They really weren't aware of some of the inherent risks. They didn't understand the safety equipment or why it was important at any given point. And they lacked some of the experience to avoid situations that got them into trouble. So we saw a large number of fatalities starting in March, April, and May. And it really kind of continued through the year. And now we're finishing the year with 27 recreational boating fatalities, which is the highest number since, I think, 1987. And that's kind of what we want to talk about here. I want to break that down a little bit because there's so much to learn from that. Of those 27, 3 were people who were, impacted in other ways through no fault of their own. One individual had a large part of a tree fall on her while she was in a boat. 2 people who were swimming were hit by motorized boaters in situations that were especially tragic and dealt with via law enforcement. 24 other recreational boating victims. Of the other 24, 11 were engaged in motorized activities. In one case, there were 2 victims in one boat. That was a boat that capsized at a coastal bar. 13 of the victims were either in kayaks, canoes, or stand-up paddleboards. 17 of the victims were not wearing a life jacket at all. That's 17 of the 24 victims, which is pretty standard from year to year. We don't get high levels of life jacket use in Oregon, and that's something we'd like to change. Of the 7 who were wearing life jackets, in 2 cases, the life jacket wasn't properly fitted. Again, if it's not the right type of life jacket for the situation you're in, or if it's too large or not properly fitted or buckled, then it can come off you when you need it most, and it doesn't serve any purpose at all. And in some situations can cause more harm than good. 3 of the non-motorized boating fatalities involve stand-up paddleboards. That's the highest level we've ever seen in a single year in Oregon. And they were especially tragic because they were so easily avoidable. What's important to remember for stand-up paddleboards, and a point that we want to get across, is the need to understand the leash that a lot of paddlers use to stay connected to their board. On flat water, on lakes and reservoirs and such, a standard ankle leash is fine. But when you go to moving water, you need to not use a leash that you can't easily reach and disconnect if you get tangled up in brush or other obstructions. At least 4 fatalities in the last few years have occurred when leashes got entangled in trees and brush, and they end up holding the person underwater by an ankle, facing downstream, and there's just no way for them to recover from that. So that's a really key lesson learned from 2020. Interestingly, of the 27 victims this last year, 21 were male, 6 were female, and 5 of the victims were under 20 years of age, which is a high number of youth than we've seen in other years. So what were the causes? After the investigations by marine law enforcement, some of the common denominators were just things like falls overboard and capsizing. With the high number of non-motorized fatalities that we've seen in recent years, that's a standard theme from year to year. If you're in a non-motorized kayak or canoe, you need to assume that you're going to end up in the water, and you should be dressed for that. You should make sure you've got your life jacket on, and you've got a wetsuit or dry suit if you're facing cold water situations. I think if we were looking ahead, there are some calls to action here. Take the time to plan your trip. Make sure that you've got the right equipment. Let people know where you're putting in and where you're taking out. Do a little bit of research to know the types of water you'll be on. Are you capable of handling, say, the white water? Are there obstructions, known obstructions? Are you going to scout the waterway to make sure that there's no blockages out there? Take a boating safety course. Join a club. Learn from others. Take the time to build your skills and start out slow. Never boat alone. I know a lot of us do that, but especially if you're in a paddling situation, it is always best to boat with other people, just to help you out if you get in a difficult situation. And then make sure you've got the required equipment. Dress comfortably, have the right equipment so you can do okay if you end up in the water, and dress for the water temperature. One last thought here is that recreational boating, I think what a lot of people discovered this year is recreational boating is a lot of fun. It's a great way to get out. It's healthy. It works well with social distancing. But there are things that you need to know to do it safely and to do it right, so you can come home at the end of the day and just remember the great time that you had out there. So in 2021, we hope you'll take the time to learn those skills, take a boating safety course, join a club, and make it a safe and enjoyable year for you and your friends and your family. Thank you.